AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions. And welcome everybody to our Saturday show, AskGunQuestions.com. As the introduction stated, we've been doing this for quite a while. I'm a little distracted because my internet is horrible. I've got new internet. Well, I don't have new internet. I restarted my internet, and it usually runs for a little while, but I'm a little bit distracted. I'm about to flip over to my backup. So with that being said, thank you for your patience if I'm lagging or roboting and that kind of thing, till I can figure out what to do about my internet in long term. We go live on Saturdays, and we record a show. I attempt to make it about an hour. Our goal is to answer questions as longtime gun owners. I bring a couple of guys together who've been gun owners their whole lives. They're old like me. They come from all around the country with different experiences and perspectives on gun ownership and guns and that kind of thing, different sports and activities with them, so that we can offer, a well-rounded answer, or at least an opinion on some of the questions that come in to our website, AskGunQuestions.com. With that, I want to welcome in Clover from Texas. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, good to be here this week.
You bet. So you want to take a second and just talk about real quick, well, as long as you want actually, about what Clover Tech is. What's Clover Tech Productions all
about? I just gun tuber channel, man. Focus on firearms, and I get billed as from the education space, but I don't think I put myself in that realm. I think other people do. But then branching out from there, more on the tech side and creator side of things as well. So the fun stuff is playing around with firearms. The work, I guess, the satisfying stuff is a lot of the behind the scenes things that most people never hear about.
Right on. So I figured we'd start the show off by giving you a chance to take the mic for a second there, in case, I don't want to take for granted that people know who my friends are, who I bring into the show. So we send an invite out to our friend Tony Simon as well. He's in New Jersey and he's moving, so he's got all kinds of things going on, IRL, as the kids say. So if he can jump in, he will. Otherwise, we'll give him a shout out and his project, the Diversity Shoot. That being said, we're going to jump into questions this week about, well, we're going to actually offer mansplaining, I think, gun shop tips and tricks, something I was going to chat about last week, but I wasn't really paying attention to the calendar, and with 4th of July and everything, it just didn't make sense. So we pushed this topic over to this week. I know that at least a couple of people dropped in questions pertaining to gun shops, but guess what? We do this show live. So as I was kind of explaining before, we do it live so that we can interact with the audience here. So about a quarter to a third of the screen, depending on how you want to measure it, is the comments from the people that are following us live on YouTube and Twitch. We broadcast out to Twitch all the time now. And if you're listening to this now, you get the option to participate in the poll over here on YouTube. What's your favorite type of gun shop? Either an online shop. I probably should have put catalog along with that. Then we got national superstores.
That was weird. I don't know if he froze or what happened, but he did say he was having internet issues. I don't have the poll up, unfortunately, so I can't see what the poll is, but I guess I can go try to grab it real quick and finish that out. See what the poll is. What's your favorite type of gun shop? Online, national superstore, local chain, mom and pop. And this is kind of, I'm going to take the wheel since G-Webs is having some issues. Hopefully he can get things figured out. Let me know out there, I guess, first, if the stream is still going. I don't want to sit here and talk to myself for, minutes of time if if nobody out there can hear me, but we can certainly riff and talk about gun shops. I definitely have some tips, tricks. I have some thoughts and ideas. So yeah, if you are live, let me know. Let me know. Cool. Yeah, Joel out there says I'm live, so I get to put down my Subway sandwich and run this thing, right? So I would say let's start out and let's talk about what is a gun shop, because I don't necessarily consider Academy Sports and Outdoors, Dick's, Field and Stream, Cabela's, Bass Pro, those types of things necessarily a gun shop. Um, I view a gun shop as something that has, if it's not full service, it at least has some type of service. Walmart definitely does not have that. And a few of the big box places do, but when we talk gun shops, those are the furthest places from my mind. I consider that big retail and not even in the same vein. And looks like G-West may be back. So,
Well, we're catching up. So I dropped out there, probably saying that
I
you could
went through
jump.
the poll
Okay.
after you left. I jumped over on YouTube that way I could finish the poll out, reading it for folks, and then, um, since the poll was there, something I had been thinking about when we were going to do this particular show is what you consider a gun shop. And like big box stores, I don't necessarily consider a gun shop. I mean,
Well,
there
they're an
is a certain
FSL.
right,
I mean, you can buy guns there, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like they don't have a soul, you mean?
kind of, yeah. Yeah, they really don't have. I mean, you're kind of a number to them. You're just a customer to them, and that probably is going to get into some of the tips and tricks and navigational
Not
ideas
just
that
a
we talked
number,
about
but
earlier.
if you're not a number that justifies the real estate in that location, then you're a number, or your absence of a number
Yep,
determines whether or not they're even going to have a department there. So it's
yep.
creepy how the big shops have to, just because they're paying a lot of money for that real estate, employees and everything else that comes along with it. So, well, anyway, that's a whole nother thing, because if we ignore the big box stores, then we lose our place in the big box stores as a industry community. And then how are we normalized? Then guns are the thing that you have to go somewhere else for. So should we appreciate our locations in the big box stores as a two-way side of it?
Probably. I mean, as far as it being in the public sphere, in the public eye, probably.
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, I find that big box stores lack in the way of education a lot of times. They just, somebody's working behind the counter and all they know is what they've experienced there.
Yeah, but if your
Um,
job is, if you're going there to get your Ruger M77, because I just watched a video about that earlier, you're going in there to get your Ruger M77. You watched Cape Gunworks do a video on it, so you know what you want. You don't need to ask them nothing. They're just there to facilitate the bulk purchase and facilitate the distribution and get it to you cheap as possible and run those little guys out of town or out of business.
you
But
may
you know what I
not,
mean? Like
you may
people
not
aren't just
need
go there for that.
anything. Well, I would say you may
I'm
not need
going all
anything.
over the place with that, but I'm just saying some people only want. Hey, this is what I want. I want my bulk bullets. I don't need no help from you. I know more about reloading than you'll ever know.
Yeah, and that's not the people I'm talking about, right? So, like, if you're talking about, oh, it's good for 2A because it puts it in the public eye, and the people that are
No,
shopping
you're right.
around,
Yeah, I'm all over
Walmart or
the place. Yeah,
something, they walk by the gun counter back there in the sporting goods. Maybe they're looking at fish and stuff or whatever, and they walk by, and it'd be nice if they had a question about a gauge or a caliber or a something that was there. Um, it intrigued them, maybe not enough to purchase it or something like that, but they were just curious. Maybe they've heard something on the news, right? We hear talking heads, politicians all the time that are spouting, vomiting and all kind of inaccuracies and stuff. And maybe the guy behind the counter there, they say, hey, what's the deal that I heard the other day, and the, you're talking about a rank and file employee that really doesn't know that much about guns, about firearms, certainly about the Second Amendment or anything else, and that's a failed opportunity to educate somebody. That's what I'm kind of getting at.
I don't want to disagree, because I think for the most part, you're probably 100% correct. Now, I've gone to a lot of gun shops, but I don't go to the big ones with an exception. I go to the big ones that I haven't been to before, like Academy. I don't live around Academy, so I didn't grow up with academies. So when I had an opportunity to check out a couple of different academies, I do, right? Just because I hear people talk about it all the time. So, I have been into some big box stores, and but that's all another topic. But we're really talking about gun shop tips and tricks. But you're right, that is another discussion as to, what's a gun shop, what's a valuable gun shop, how do we utilize the resources we have without squandering them or not appreciating. But I think that there's, just to throw my mansplaining into there, I think you're right though, in a lot of ways with what you said there, that we have an opportunity with the big box stores to create more of, I don't know what to call it, but like when I worked at a Barnes and Noble, I did the coffee shop stuff in a Barnes and Noble, so I could see what was going on in the Barnes and Noble, since it's right in front of me. And they did a thing with like where like an author could come in and read, or if you wanted to come in and learn about something, they'd have like 6 different books, and one of the book stackers would come in and kind of give you a orientation more than anything, just a little, here you go, and then if you want more info, here's the books that are going to have way more info, origami, or how to set the table. I mean, it was stuff like that. But having a place in the shop where people can go on Saturdays, we have a clinic, or on Saturdays we have a workshop, or on whatever, and then you have your retired folks, your experts in the field, do seminars and workshops, and then it becomes that ambassador to the community, to the other shoppers that are there for the boots and the kayaks and the fishing gear or whatever else, binoculars, clothes.
Yeah. And
All
some
right,
of the,
so
and I'm sure that's regional, it's store to store and a lot of that. I mean, the academy that is closest to me doesn't do it anymore, but they had an amazing, and I mean, it's all part of kind of the same vein, but they had an amazing archery section, and they even had an indoor range back there. They had some great Botex, and they would really spend time with, with that side of things. So, there are those big box stores that do have, pretty decent service and education, people that know what they're doing.
whenever I first started doing all of this stuff back in the early 2000s, getting out of doing 9 to 5 stuff and doing computer consulting and website stuff for people, I had a client, Sportsman's Warehouse, that Canadian company that has big box stores. And they had one here in Tucson. It was new. And part of their whatever recipe was to advertise locally. So I fit the bill. I was a local website. So they advertised with me. And that gave me insight, because I had access to their manager and their store and stuff. And I did some CCW classes there. And they did quite a bit of effort, right? Like they did some of that stuff I just talked about, like having seminars and stuff. Problem is like completely on their side of town. And it was like, a couple of bucks a month. So it wasn't worth camping out there and experiencing everything they offered. But I did get some insight as to the stuff they had. Problem is that, like, or at least with the example of this store, after a certain amount of time, that was no longer part of the recipe for their budget or whatever. And I was not, no longer necessary for that equation. And then they went on to other things. And I don't know if it's a barometer where if they start losing something, they go back to local advertising, or if it's like periodically they go back to local advertising, or maybe they just moved on from that and went to different strategies over time. So I want to say the big box stores are just like anything else. They're looking and they're sniffing around. We all know that Sportsman's Guide, not to be confused, Sportsman's Guide is a U.S. company out of Minnesota, the catalog company from way before the internet. Big giant surplus company. They have their own products, like their own lines and stuff. So Sportsman's Guide supports a whole bunch of people in the community. And they have no stores. They're just online. So I don't want to confuse anybody. But, some of these giant companies, just move at a different pace, like an aircraft carrier or something. You can't expect them to be on top of everything. But I know Sportsman's Guide has a massive knowledge base on their website. Their website is massive, as big as their, build their warehouses with information about the products and stuff. And they just have always seemed to be interested in providing information. And like I say, they support a whole bunch of creators out there. So in that respect, they're reaching out to the education side and the activism side and all the other sides, right?
They used to. They have.
Oh, they're not doing that as much?
It's been a month since they have with me. I can tell you that much. And several.
Oh, well, man, I need to go clean up. I need to go pay attention more then. Yeah, okay. But yeah, so, but again, let's not.
Again, but they have. I mean, who knows?
That could be and things, and time on the clock is time on the clock.
Yeah.
Okay, but that being said, yeah, we kind of went off on that because this is a big topic, and I didn't even think about it because I was thinking gun shops like local mom and pops, when I first put this together, and by the way, Tony jumped in. Thanks, Tony, for joining us. Tony jumping in there, but we started getting off on these big box stores, and that's literally a whole nother discussion. Like that is part of our industry, but I mean, we could have a whole discussion on the online stuff. We could have a whole discussion on the giant, Walmart-sized stores that exist, and that whole shuffling of ownerships and stuff and awareness of our rights and that kind of thing. But in this case, we'll just mention them like over, I guess I already went through the polls there. There's a poll on the video itself. We only have 11 votes over there if I'm still connected. And there's the poll on the channel that has 5 options, and there's 13 votes over there. So, or no, there's 18 votes over there, but surprisingly similar results. So anyway, the items on the poll are the online stores, your national superstores, your local shops, your local chains, I should say, and then your mom and pop shops. So your mom and pops, your local chains, your regional chains, your big national chains, so big stores, and then the online stores, or maybe the onlines and catalogs. So Tony's jumping in, give him a chance to grab the mic for a bit. Thanks for joining us. We're going to be talking about gun shop tips and tricks, but if you had to pick your favorite type out of those 4, what's your favorite type of gun shop?
Do you say the mom and pop, like the smaller gun shops?
Single shop. I mean, mom and pop just to mean like one location. It might not be run by an actual husband and wife, but the single shop as opposed to a chain or something.
Yeah, my favorite shop right now is one in PA, and just nice guys. I know them. They know me. They know the work I do. They're always busy, willing to help. That's my favorite shop because it's more personable. The bigger stores, they have people, employees in and out. Most of the time, they don't have the same one there twice. Some of their people don't know. They said they had an interest in guns, so they put them behind the counter, but they sell other stuff. You know what I mean? So those guys aren't really, I don't know. And then one of my worst shops is still a mom and pop shop. The guy's just not trustworthy. I've saw him do some shady stuff that is wrong, is wrong, and I'll never go back there again. But yeah, man, that was my. I love them and hate them, but I'd rather go to the local people who are gonna be there. If they make a decision, at least it'll be based on the owner, whom I know or meet, has made that decision, not some corporate head or a board somewhere made a decision to stop selling something or no longer do business with certain people. So, yep, mom and pop gets my vote.
Okay, so I'm going to head over. So thanks for that, and I'm going to head over to the database place, whatever I'm trying to say. The results of all the people that ask, or the results of where the questions go, so that we can start answering them. I know that Wood said he had posted a few that had something to do with gun shops. I think that's a good place to start today. As I type and try to scroll at the same time. Let me ask this a question to kind of get the ball rolling. I'll go Clover first. How many shops on average do you, let's say, troll? Like how many shops do you have in your rotation of shops that when you got a couple of bucks out of nowhere, a couple of bucks budgeted, you got some money you can spend, how many gun shops are you cruising?
Currently,
On the regular.
Yeah, currently probably 2. But there's a reason for that. So many have went out of business, sadly. In fact, there's one in our area that's closing down. They're liquidating their stuff out right now. They're closing the doors July 22nd. So at one time, oh man, and we're talking about spending all day, making the rounds. But 6 or 8 or something, quite a few.
Tony, same question. If everything, I didn't even think about the idea that some of them are shutting down. So like in general, or in a normal circumstance, you get a couple $100, you're going to go buy something, how many shops do you got?
I mean, truthfully, it came down to this for me. The closest one to me was the one I don't ever want to do business with, so they were out immediately. The other one was close to work, so I'd go there, and they usually have the normal stuff, but it will be, might as well say, a Jersey tax. And then I go to the place in PA, and it'll be like $150, $200 cheaper than the one in Jersey. So if it was a long arm, I could go ahead and make that move. But if it was a handgun, of course, I'd have to factor in having it shipped to my FFL and paying for it that way. So, I mean, truthfully, two, maybe three, I would check out regularly.
And now, if I change the question to just if you had all the time in the world, not so much, the money is there, you're retired or something happens and something changes and you just got time to go cruise shops, how many could you check out? Like, even if you wanted to check out the ones that suck just because you wanted to make sure they don't have something good.
Oh, well, then it would become a thing. I mean, I just plan stuff around going to the stores and hitting my favorite restaurants and diners that's near that place. I
But I mean,
mean, it
is
would
there a
just,
bunch? I guess I'm asking, how is there a bunch in the area? Like, you're
no,
picking those 2 out of 4, or is it those 2 out of 16? That kind of question.
no, you have to travel throughout Jersey to find a bunch of shops.
Okay.
Yeah, gun for hire, which I know you've heard of.
Oh
Gun for
yeah.
hire range just opened their own gun shop.
But
Actually,
that I was going to say the range is new, right? It was just rentals for the longest time.
it was the rentals for the longest time. They had a gun store renting space from them, and when they got the building done, they opened up their own gun shop. So I was up there. They don't have a lot of inventory yet because again, they they opened up this month officially. Um, but yeah, definitely. I don't know. Yeah, I'd probably just do multiple in a day or, plan a weekend or do some cool stuff. Probably during the week when they had less people and I'd have more time to browse. We have good shops here in Jersey, though. I mean, it's behind enemy lines, as we call it, but we have good shops. The price is a little more expensive than out of state, but it's good to shop local. And also, being a 2A advocate, that's where a lot of us run into each other, hang out, or meet. So it's a combination
Yeah.
of a lot of things.
That's a good point. And I'm glad you brought that part up because that's something that's often overlooked when you're just looking at the black and white or the bottom line or whatever of a gun shop, right? You forget about what's the potential for meeting other people that are like-minded or something. Like, that might be the worst shop ever, but they're the one where all the IDPA people hang out. So you kind of have to hang out there or something,
Yeah, I mean, it's like, especially if they do gunsmith work or Cerakoting or any of
Yeah.
that stuff. Now it's a thing. Now, hey, I went there, I hung out, we talked some, shoot the BS, and again, that's something I try to do during the week instead of on the weekend. Definitely. So
Another
yeah,
term.
there'd be days dedicated to that if I was retired or independently wealthy or whatever you want to call it and didn't have to work.
So if you're out there listening, obviously you're all in different parts of the world. We've got 20 something people, if this is accurate, listening live right now. If you want to put your state or region or something like that, and then how many shops are available to you versus how many you actually frequent. Maybe that's a better word. Troll has such a bad connotation. Back in the day, trolling is what you do for fish. You would sit in a boat, you'd throw a line overboard, and then you would move the boat around, which would effectively mimic the fish in your bait swimming, right? So you'd be trolling for fish. And that somehow turned into the trolling for whatever they're looking for on the internet, reactions from people. And now trolls, I think people associate it with under a bridge or something now, that kind of troll. So it probably has something to do with that too. But anyway, so I don't want to say like we're trolling stores like in a negative way at all. I just meant frequenting stores, like how many you have available versus how many you go to. Now in Tucson, I don't want to be a jerk, but it's somewhere between 16 and 25, depending on the year and how healthy the community is or whatever. And that's without going out into the desert. And it's definitely without going to garage FFLs. There must be dozens and dozens and dozens of garage FFLs here. But just shops themselves, we have everything from a couple of shops that are just almost single people, or mom and pop for sure, that are just everything in there has been there forever. The guy probably either does remember where everything is or doesn't, and it's an adventure just going in and poking around and searching around the stores and seeing all the different stuff. When you're a collector, those kind of stores are like gold mines. And then everything to we don't have a Bass Pro or nothing like that. We have that Sportsman's Warehouse is the biggest thing we have, but we have a couple of chains that come out of California, so that's been kind of interesting to see shops with multiple locations come out of California and do all their stuff that they've always wanted to do in Arizona where they can, kind of thing. So that's been kind of neat. And then a couple of indoor ranges, and then kind of a lot of in between during the different rushes and shortages. Back when the assault weapons ban ended, we had quite a few shops show up that were going to focus on basically all the stuff that the assault weapons ban was no longer prohibiting. And during some times of plenty and whatnot, and a lot of interest in AR-15s, we've had a couple of shops start up that were just almost focused on AR-15 specifically. And I've been to a couple of shops like that around the country, and it's kind of interesting that a shop can exist just for AR-15 parts and accessories and stuff. And then anyway, so we have quite a few, and then a lot of pawn shops and stuff, because we have retirees here. And the shops that have the used stuff and the pawn shops, there's a couple of shops that you'd almost consider pawn shops because their inventory is almost all used. And the stuff that they get from the retirees and the people from the Air Force Base that's near, that's in town, and then I guess probably from some of the students who go through the U of A, we're not the most transient town out there, I'm sure, but we've got a lot of people that, for whatever reasons, let collections go. So as a collector, Tucson's been awesome. So I don't want to be a jerk or whatever, but unless you're rich, you can't really take advantage of all of that. But you can certainly go around and see a bunch of stuff. So for me, if I had 16 to 20 shops, realistically, I could probably get to 7 of them without breaking the bank on gas all the time. And out of those 7, one owes me $350, and he knows who he is. So I'm never going to mention that store because that dude owes me $350, and everybody in town knows who that is. But the other shops, I would frequent them whenever, like Tony said, if I'm on that side of town doing anything, well, then I got an excuse to go by that shop. And if I got to go by that side of town, I'm going when the shop's open, right? Okay, I've talked for a bit. Clover, what's your position like that?
Yeah, it's kind of that way here. Time and distance is really the issue. If you've got, say, an 8-hour day, I don't know. I could probably hit 12, maybe. Wouldn't be able to spend a whole lot of time in each one. Just walk in, peruse the inventory, right? Walk in, sweep the inventory, and walk out and go to the next one. And I could probably
that's almost all you need to do when you've been there enough times, right? And if they know who you are, they're going to go, "Hey, look over here," because they know what you're doing and what you like.
And in there lies the problem, right? With being able to do something like that, to say, "Oh, I'm going to see how many gun shops I can hit today." Well, the problem is, even if I don't frequent those places, they usually remember me because of, and maybe that's something we get into, but I'll enter into conversations, right? They know that I know a lot, that type thing. And so even if they haven't seen me in a year, it's not like they've forgotten me. And so it's really hard to go into one of those places and just eye sweep and walk out, because maybe if certain people are out to lunch or something like that, you can get away with that. But depending who's there, you know what I mean? It's like, "Hey, I hadn't seen you in a while. How you been? Oh man, come check this out or come check that out," right? And you're screwed as far as time wise. And you got to remember, here in Texas too, it's it's an hour in between this town and that town, and what have you. So that eats up, the travel alone eats up a lot of time.
I know Clover's not like this, but in my mind, I just imagine Clover walking in with a Ron Swanson attitude, walks in, looks at the guy behind the counter, "I know more than you," and just walks off.
I don't ever tell anybody that. I want to so many times. I will usually. It's much more fun to just hand them the rope, and then stand back and watch.
Well, no, that's
Oh, I'm
Go ahead.
sorry. I went into one store and I'm trying really hard because this is back when they had the Segas. So you know how far the Sega AKs that weren't sporterized already, and they had one for $225 and 223. And I asked the guy, did they have any in 545? And he looked at me and said, "There's no such thing as 556, not 545."
Hmm.
And I'm like, it's a Soviet cartridge. No, Soviet cartridge is 762 by 39 or a 556. That's it. I was like, all right, thank you.
I overheard
But you
a
know what'll happen whenever he figures that out? He's going to be like, "Dang it, I made a fool of myself in front of that guy that one time."
yep. I overheard a guy trying to sell an AK, and I don't remember what kind it was or anything like that. I'm not the biggest AK guy. But was sitting at the end of the counter, actually talking to somebody else, and this guy that was telling another guy, which the other guy was, let's just say, a FUD, right? He had shotguns and deer hunting rifles, but really didn't have anything like an AK or an AR. That AK is the way to go. All the competitors are using AKs. Like, okay, dude, whatever.
What planet is that on?
Right? Exactly.
I mean, there's a couple, but no.
But that was
Oh,
the same. That was the same gun shop employee that started a rumor that I got kicked out of SHOT Show. So he obviously doesn't know what he's talking about, regardless of what he's talking about.
at least he's consistent. I actually was in a law enforcement only gun shop. They won't sell to you unless you're law enforcement. They didn't bother telling me that when I walked in. So I'm listening to the cop talk to the guy behind the counter, and they were like, "Well, here's a 12 gauge, and you know how this works. You don't even have to aim it, and plus, they'll probably give up when you rack the slide." So I was looking at holsters at the time, and I looked over and I waited for them both to start cracking up, laughing at their joke. Everybody was dead serious. I was like, "This is so sad." Like, one's law enforcement and one works at the shop, and they both believe you don't have to aim a shotgun, and racking a shotgun will make someone just give up immediately. I'm like, that's just
Well,
not good.
Well, here's what's going to happen too. If you're, let's say you're a car salesman, right? Or you're a guitar salesman, and somebody's like, "Oh, this is the perfect guitar to smash on stage after the event because it's the neck on this looks great. And you know, the strings look just the right contrast to the frets. So this is the guitar I want." And you're going to have to go, "Okay, you know what? Buy that guitar off of me." I think there's a level of that. I know that as a gun owner, or I mean, as working in a gun shop and, you know, having opinions or whatever, you got to just go, "Okay, like you're right.
Oh,
You know,
no,
you want
the
that 9
gun shop
millimeter, it's good
employee,
to go."
the gun shop employee started this the conversation with the
Oh,
don't
I
have
thought you
to
were saying
aim.
two. Okay, okay. I thought you were talking
Yeah.
about two customers
well,
are in front of them because you'll have sometimes just be like, "Yeah, you're right. You want to buy that
Oh,
now, or you want to buy that?"
oh, I totally understand. Being, having come from family retail business, I would, yeah. Listen, buddy, whatever you say,
so
whatever you say, you're gonna buy it.
Yep.
so with shotgun sports, you don't aim, you point, and so was something lost in translation with that conversation? No.
No, it was the reality that a lot of law enforcement don't know anything about firearms outside of the academy. And the guy really didn't know. And I don't know if the guy behind the counter was just having fun because he was bored, or whether he was just saying wacky stuff because that's what he believed. I don't know which it was.
Right.
And I just
Well,
hung around a little bit to ear hustle just to see how bad it was. And there was a lot of bad information given out of that shop.
Right.
There's echo chambers, right? And one of the echo chambers will be security. I find because there's only so many people that get into security, and sometimes it's typically you're retired or you're new, right? Your first job is in security, and you get into that line, or you're getting out of the public service and you get into security. And either way, you either don't know or don't care anymore. So I think that those echo chambers can happen there because you get the people that have that kind of whatever. I mean, whatever, like, whatever the glitch is or whatever their perception is, if it's old, they just don't get challenges. I guess what I'm saying. Like you don't get a bunch of new blood in there going, oh no, you know what I just learned that's wrong, or here's another way to look at that. They just status quo, and I don't, unless there's impetus to change it, it just stays. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. I'm not trying to justify it.
I totally agree with you. It's just crazy because again, many people think police officers and gun store employees know everything there is to know about firearms, and I'm like, no, they don't. Some just work there because it's a thing. So if you go there full of your knowledge, like you want to be a tactical Timmy and toss questions out, you may not meet a kindred spirit when you walk into a gun shop. It might not be what you think. Or you'd have to find a gun shop like the one you talked about earlier that sells nothing but ARs. More than likely, you'll have a plethora of tactical Timmies in attendance and behind the counter at a place like that. And you can talk about things like plate carriers and what gear and gear setups. But you can't depend on that in every gun shop, at least to get good information.
This all goes to the fact that it's a piece of machinery. It's a tool. It's an inanimate object, right? Our conversation right now plays directly into that nomenclature, because to those that just use it for the job, what I'm saying? Like, what is the thing? Like to a hammer, everything looks like a nail type scenario, right? So but if you are, like me, I got a few hammers, and I really don't care which hammer I grab when I need to hammer something, right? A contractor's totally different. They're like, okay, if I'm working on this cabinet, I need a different hammer because I'm going to tear something up. If I use a framing hammer on this, I don't care. I'll use a sledgehammer to drive nails. It doesn't matter to me. As long as it can pound something in there, I don't care. And so
you don't care that there's a better one or one that would be easier on your wrist in the long term because you don't care.
Right. Does it get it done? Or even if you have to use it differently to make it work. Right.
Yeah.
How many of us have used a pocket knife as a screwdriver? That seldom ends well for the pocket knife, but how many times have we done
that? No comment.
Well, when it sometimes scratches stuff up, but it also sometimes gets you out of a weird situation, or it just ends something from being annoying or whatever, right? It just can be beneficial.
Right. Yeah. My point is, you've got, I know, especially in the archery world, this is true. But it's I've seen it in the firearms competition side as well. That people have their Bowtechs, they have their gunsmiths, and they really don't know that much about the firearms themselves. Like for them, it's like a baseball bat or a baseball mitt or you know what I mean, or basketball sneakers or whatever.
You mean the owner of the gun, just the regular gun owner?
Right, like they know how to use it. They're kicking butt in competition and winning. They know how to use the thing, but don't get them to try to tell you anything about it or work on it. Or
I think we're all like that when it comes to like reloading. Most of us don't care as long as we buy a 9mm bullet. It better be a 9mm bullet, and if we want a different kind, we buy a different kind. But we know that we can get all worried about.
Right.
I actually talk to people, especially new shooters, especially my female shooters or my. Oh, hello.
I don't know what happened. I think he's muted right now, though. So go ahead.
Oh, me? Okay. I talk to, because I do a lot of new students. I have a lot of new students. I have a lot of attendees that come to diversity shoots. And I stress the importance of using the correct nomenclature when you walk into a gun shop. Even if they don't know everything about firearms, I'm like, I need you to be able to differentiate between, I don't know what words. Number one, when you go into a gun shop and handle a firearm, I'd like you to be safe. That's the number one thing.
Right.
Number two, before you do anything, you ask, can you dry fire their firearm? 3, don't point the gun at them because they get gunned at all the time. And then I think 4 on there is at least know the words to use. Know a 9mm when you say it, and this is what a 9 is. This is what a 40 is. They're different calibers. And just trigger, muzzle, magazine. That's about it. You don't have to be an expert, but have certain words. So then know you're not a pushover and you don't feel stupid. Because that's the thing, especially if you've never been in one. It's your first venture into a gun shop. Many people are nervous and they don't want to screw up and they don't want to be talked to like an idiots, or at least they have the fear that they will be spoken to like idiots. So that's one of the things. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say, I agree with you that a lot of new firearm owners will walk in and have that fear. We've heard that from women in particular, right?
Yep.
And there's no doubt it's out there.
Yep.
And out of the, dozens of whatever many of gun shops that, I have been to, there are a few, right, that are that way. But the vast majority of shops, employees, and when we're talking the smaller places, the vast majority are not that way. They're like, if somebody says something and I'm that way because I even help out with the local gun shop here from time to time, gunsmithing, working the counter, doing some different things. It's just an agreement we have. And, I'll get, whether it's a lady, whether it's a guy, it's a kid, it's whatever, and if they say something wrong, and I can tell, okay, they're confused about this, and they'll look embarrassed when they say it. And I'm like, it's not a big deal. You can, just, let's walk through it. It's not, it's not rocket science. We're not Elon Musk putting rockets into space. It's not that crazy. It's like, here, and you show them and they're like, oh, okay, I understand, I get it now. And like, there you go, now you know as much as I do.
Yeah, and the other thing I try to do is, okay, one, get women to, and it's usually women, to accept that you're not going to know everything, but here's a couple of things you can do and you'll be fine. But it's also to get guys to admit they don't know stuff. It's like, look, it's okay. You don't have to walk in. You're not John Wick. You know what I mean? You don't have to be able to tear the firearm down or do anything like that. Just walk in. Hey, I'd like to get some for personal protection, or now in Jersey, I'd like to get something. Like, what do you suggest as the carry gun? And prep them for things like that, because I've watched them guys go in, and all of a sudden, yeah, I know what I'm doing, and you hand them a firearm, and you might as well have given a monkey a football. Like, they have no idea what they're doing. So, I mean, it all helps, and there's an intimidation factor, especially if you've never been in gun shops. But I've been going to gun shops since I was a kid, right. So nothing, I'm not going to be intimidated by your gun store.
And G-Webs, building off of this, maybe we should talk the same thing as gun shops on gun shows at sometimes. Break that down. Just something
on another show, because it's separate, but yeah, definitely, because just the strategies are different and the people are selling is a lot more individuals. But yeah, definitely. Now let me get into this part a little bit, because I'm definitely into this whole subject a lot over the years, and I've built some websites about it, or places, resources online for it. I've linked them into the description there if anybody wants to check them out. But they're gunshopguide.com. I've got a place there for both etiquette and tips. And some of the stuff that Tony said there kind of was both. I think etiquette, when you kind of mention the idea of not, it's their property. So if you're going to walk in there and ask to use their property, don't just assume nothing. And some things that can damage or affect the product, you want to definitely make it clear that you've got their permission. Plus, it also sets the tone that you're a respectful customer, right? And not just someone who's taking them for granted. But, some of those are etiquette, where tips, I think, there's some, that's more of like, well, I guess etiquette also, but I was going to say it's more of a it's on the fly type of thing. In other words, not every gun shop is the same. Not every gun shop employee is the same. And whatever you're going in there for may or may not be an important thing or a casual thing, an investment thing. You're trying to make the best, financial buy you can make. That's a different gun shop visit than I need to learn more about this and I'm looking for the expert in town. That's a different gun shop visit. Those are resources that the gun shop can offer you besides just product. They can offer you a lot of I need the best hunting guide in town. I need that kind of stuff. Am I losing internet again?
Yeah, you cut out there just now.
I'm going to switch internets again. You guys take it for a second.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think. Oh, go ahead, Clover.
No, I was just going to think one of the things, I guess this would go to etiquette that, I would advise people that you don't think about is many times the display cases at gun shops are glass on the top, right? And sometimes they have cleaning mats. They have some type of mat there you can put the firearm on. If they don't lay the firearm down after you're done looking at it. Hand it back to the person. Don't lay it down on the glass. There's a mat there or something, that's fine. And the reason I say that is over time, those glass cases are expensive. I've had to buy them before. And, over time, days, weeks, years worth of people setting things on them, especially with sharp edges and corners like a lot of firearms can have, scratches that. And so, you start getting a situation to where, especially if it's a mom and pop shop and they spent hundreds or, even thousands of dollars on their display setup, you don't want a situation to where, they've got to prematurely buy, all new stuff. That's more cost that they could put into their inventory or put into their parts selections or whatever it might be. So
now if I'm back again, I want to use these shows too I wanted to preface this and I forgot, but that made me remember that one of the things I wanted to use this opportunity for is any gun shop owners that might be listening. Hopefully gun shop owners would listen to something like this just because they like the show or the topic, gives them some recon, some intel. So that's the thing, if you've got fancy, expensive stuff, just like in somebody who's setting you up to fail. Hey, look at my fancy coffee table. Oh, don't put that glass down. Well, then give me a coaster, like one of the two. Like, what are you setting me up to fail here? So give them a bunch of those foam pads all over the place. And if you're concerned about that, then brand them. That's your opportunity to, have some local guy make them in leather or something, or have somebody make them in Kydex. And get a local, some kind of a collaboration with a local artisan.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Something I do, and of course I ask, if you're gonna take pictures of the firearms, because I think some stuff is cool and it's for sale, and I'll put it up. I won't put a price on it, obviously, but I'm like, hey, can I take a picture of this because I think it's cool and I want to post it on IG, and then I know the price and I can compare it to something later, something I can buy online. Who the hell knows? But like I've seen some cool stuff, as we all have, but you need to ask if you can take a photo.
And again,
I used to
have a mouse pad sitting there with your logo on it. Oh, you want to take a photo? Please use our logo pad right there. So now you're getting a plug every time, like you say, you're putting that on
every time. Yep. And that's a great idea because again, you can get these things made not for a lot of money, because all you're trying to do is not scratch your glass up, but it gives a backstop.
Ask your customers, put up a sign that says, hey, I'm looking for a customer who's an artisan. We need an Instagram photo booth background, maybe more than one, and see what they come up with. And then, put up some fancy lighting so that it's effective, have your Instagram little info right there so that when they take the picture, it's watermarked. And then, have local people, because you can imagine like blankets and leather, nylon, different kind of things would make a great background for pictures.
Yeah, because the particular shop I was going to, they had nothing. So, and I'm trying to take a picture of something cool. I forgot what it was. I think they had Sphinx. They had a Sphinx CZ clone, and it was, I'm telling you, hundreds of dollars less than you could buy one new. And I wanted to take a photo. Well, the only thing I had was a 2A4E t-shirt. I had a small that I was giving to somebody or doing something. I just put that down and used that. And I'm like, you guys should really have mats because they have nothing. Go ahead.
When you said that, because that blue is a nice color for rallies and stuff, but it's a bit blue for a picture. It's like too blue. I don't know what the words are. Hue. I don't know what the color the word is, but you know what I mean. It's got too much blue. It needs to be like sky blue or like a dull blue or something. But anyway, ideally, you can still take a picture on that background. It's a million times better than like on the glass case with 6 other guns behind it and all that. But I was going to say what I like to do at gun shops, if they've got like it's almost always like an XD or a Smith & Wesson thing on the pad on the counter. You know, it's got some kind of logo branding on it, and that's just as bad as putting it on a cluttered thing. Flip it over. It's almost always a nice gray or dark gray pattern on the back, and it's almost like like a nice consistent pattern, like what's that, aluminum or like a steel stuff or something like. So you flip it over and you've got a nice background. Almost all shops have those things laying around. Ask them if you can use one real quick, and just a pro tip. All right, so did I miss? I've been watching my internet more than the comments. We do have a bunch of people out there, so thanks everybody for showing up to hang out with the show live. I can't go much more than an hour because I'm going to be doing a auction preview here in an hour from right now, so we can go a couple more minutes. We don't have to cut it off or nothing. I know that I've been planning this show for a while, so Clover or Tony, have you guys had any, or did you guys have anything in mind to bring to the show that I don't want to just steamroll right through or anything? If you had anything in mind or any points you wanted to bring up or had for the topic.
Oh, there's a bunch of things that I can say. I mean, first of all, when you're dealing with a mom and pop shop, now obviously if you walk into a place, it's your first time, and they're absolutely rude and everything else, whatever, it's what it is. But if they are trying and they're trying to help folks out and they're all of that good stuff, then when you go in buy something, I know G Webs has talked about that before, whether that's Targets or maybe the $1 or $5 whatever used box or whatever it might be, pick up a little something when you go in there every single time. The other thing is, don't a lot of people will walk into a local gun shop and they eyeball the prices and then they walk out. And that's the extent of I went to this gun shop. They don't get to know the people. They don't have conversations with them. They're just looking at prices. And I'll tell you this, if you just walked into the one that I work with and work through, if you just walked in there and looked at prices, I can tell you right now, you don't understand. You would look at that and you might think it's too expensive or whatever the case may be, but you don't realize that all their things, their sticker price, first of all, is that includes tax, which that's an out the door price. They put the out the door price on everything. And
not
then,
all stores do that. No, not,
yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, that's an out the door price. So you
sometimes
don't have
pawn shops will do it, but yeah, or like
you don't even have to
other stores, but not gun shops.
Yeah, you don't even have to worry about that. So that's a beautiful thing. And a lot of people, they look at that and they add tax on top. Well, if they don't ask or they don't, are not a regular person of the shop, they wouldn't know that they've always done business that way, which is sort of unique. The other thing is
all prices include tax or anything.
No, no, not at all. And then the other thing I would say is, if you go in and you're looking for a better deal, first of all, it doesn't cost you anything to ask. But second of all, compounding things often, especially for local gun shops, will get you the deal because they may not have a lot of wiggle room on the firearm, especially if it's a new one. Usually, local gun shops, small gun shops, usually have a lot more wiggle room on the used stuff. So that's why I typically frequent the used stuff. But even at that, sometimes they don't have near the margins, but they may have the margins on some other things, right? So whether you're talking optics or you're talking gunsmithing tools or cleaning supplies or reloading supplies or whatever it might be, a lot of times they have a little more margin. And, if you get, if you pick up, okay, well, I want to get this and then I want to get a holster and then I want to get this, they will, the savings that they can typically give you for, buying more than just one thing, being not only a regular customer, but a consistent customer, I guess. And you can save a lot of money over time. So, but all of that hinges on again, getting to know the people, not just walking in. Hey, how's it going? Can I help you? Not just looking around, eyeball the prices, and then walk out. Do a little more, spend a little more time getting to know people.
100% agree.
And the
Actually,
other
'cause
people at the shop, right? Not
yep,
just the owners of the shop, but the other people that are there. I can walk into that place and, if I'm up there helping for a few hours or whatever the case be, almost everybody that comes through the door, I pretty much know their entire background. You know what I mean? All the
Well,
regular
but
customers.
nobody can do that realistically. Not that many people are going to have the ability to do all that. But you can do. I was going to suggest, Tony. I
No, I
interrupted
get
you.
I get that, but if you frequent a place regularly, you will see the other people that frequent that place regularly.
No, I
And
hear you, but I'm just saying, like, not everybody has the chance to. Because if maybe your shop's 30 minutes away, you're just not going to be able to be there that often. You can go there once a month or something. That's what I'm saying.
well,
It's like
mine's
you'll
30
never.
to 45 minutes. So, but yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying.
well,
Oh,
see,
for me, 30 minutes is a long time.
I was that guy who would go into the store and not buy anything. I'd look around, I'd ask to see stuff behind the counter. I was the worst, and then I wouldn't buy anything and I'd leave. And I had an experience with somebody, did some rude stuff behind my back, and I saw him, and I was like, you know what? I haven't bought anything in this store. I was thinking about it when about my parents' shop. And I'm like, if somebody came in here every month, looked around, touched all my safes, touched every lock, you know what I mean? Touched everything, asked me questions, and then will walk out and buy something at Home Depot, I'd want to get away from that customer too. So, yeah, go there. And if you can, pick up something. So I started buying things, a magazine, a magazine, sling, ammo, Ear Pro, the little foamies, just something because I taken up their time. Let me spend some money there. Because I give off the foamies all the time. Plus, I use them for work, so I can always use more of those. You know what I mean? But it's like spend money because it is a business, especially the smaller shops. Hello? Did I
Yeah.
drop off? Can you? Okay.
No, that's a great point. So I wanted to interrupt before, and I bit my tongue, but I think one of the things that if you're trolling the shops or whatever, if you're frequenting shops at whatever frequency, I think you could have some questions, and kind of what I think Tony was mentioning earlier when I think I was dropping in and out a little bit, but I think I heard you say something about you heard him say, oh yeah, whenever you heard him say something kind of a dumb answer and you were just like, okay, thanks. But that's like a learning. It's like okay, now I know where you're at. Not that, I just know where you're at, like good or bad. Thanks. I'm not taking advice from you necessarily, but you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So you can ask questions to a shop somewhere between how's the weather and wasting their time with some specific, right? But I would say something like, if you're, especially when a shop is new, like what's good or got any new used stuff in, if it's the kind of shop that has used stuff in, or if it's the kind of shop that has nothing but used stuff all the time. Hey, is there any new milsurp in? So that you're the guy who's looking for XYZ. And now if it's that kind of day where they're like, I got to go in back and do inventory and it's shitty, but this guy's asking me about milsurp and the boss is right there. So if I sit around talking about Swiss 5, whatever, I don't know milsurp, you know what I mean? If I talk about whatever for half an hour, I'm working, and you know what I mean? You never know about that until, like Clover's saying, you got to kind of do that once in a while. But I'm thinking, is there some questions you guys have asked over the years that you can kind of imagine if you were going to go check out all the stores one day in town, or think about this, just to throw another wrench out there, another tangent. When you travel, take an opportunity to take a day to just travel to the gun shops. If you're going to be out of town for an office or for work or something, spend one day travel in the gun shops, or each evening go to a gun shop. If you're in town for a conference or something, check out what ranges are open and go rent some guns at some places and experience what it's like in that state in their gun shops and stuff. But anyway, so you're going to go out and check out some gun shops for a day. What's a question you could ask? But for me, it was always, do you got any AK-47 bayonets? Do you have any mini revolvers, right? I didn't ask about the Saturday night specials because that was kind of embarrassing. Plus, nobody ever has them, so it wasn't really useful. But NAA revolvers, when I was still making money and I could collect those, that's a icebreaker because that's like a $250 plus item. I didn't want to interrupt too much there, but they're going to make the most money on a gun they got used. They're going to make the most money on the holster they got, 6 holsters with this used gun, right? If you go buy those things, you're just giving them money out of nowhere. If you buy something out of their $5 bin, that's giving them lunch. Like there's no markup on that. That is money in their pocket. So that's my question is I would come in and say, do you got this specific thing that I'm collecting? And then they know I'm that guy. So do you guys, I'll shut up. Do you guys have a question like that you'd ask?
All right. I was waiting for Clover to say something, but one of the things I like the used things because I'm tactically frugal and I know used guns will be less expensive and they can play with the price on you and give it to you for less than they have it marked for. But also, I liked police trade-ins for a few reasons. One, it's like civilian surplus in my mind. So that's kind of cool. Some PDs actually had the logos on the side. I just think that's cool. And the price is right. A lot of people might not want a 40 Glock or a 40 SIG 226 because that's what the New Jersey State Police had for a long time. And I'd have a chance to get a crack at something somebody else didn't want, but was still good, carried a lot, shot infrequently. So that's where I would start. Something that's really interesting, or do you have any World War II surplus? Do you have any Browning high powers? That kind of thing.
Yeah, for me it's the 22 long rifle. Usually it's like, hey, what all you got in 22? We're talking about walking into a new place, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that sets the tone, right? Like, oh, this is a guy that's looking for those. And then if nothing else, if you come in at once a month, once a week, whatever, and that other person comes in and says, hey, I've got a 22 and 6 other shotguns, they're like, yeah, I'll take that 22. I know where I can get rid of this.
Oh, I know I hit the one place I know of. I was looking for used break action 12 gauge shotguns. I just figured most of them are under $100. And since it's out of state, I know I can purchase it over the counter and walk right out of the door with it. You know what I mean? And I just thought that was neat because I was working on a whole project of making a home defense gun for somebody that's not really in the guns. So that's what I was looking at, working on that. Kind of fell through because a lot of other things happened, but I might revisit that once I get a house.
Something like a single shot with a round in the stock or something?
Yeah, just a single shot 12 gauge for home defense for somebody who's got zero interest in guns, will not put a lot of time in learning how to, operate a pump action without short stroking it, will not look into, what semi-automatic shotgun runs with what. So it's like, okay, fine. You're not going to be a gun guy, but you will shoot it, learn how to safely use it, but you're not going to the range a lot. All right, here's something right here that won't break the bank. And maybe it will get you in the shooting later on, but at least get you in the door as a gun owner. Everybody's not
more importantly, get them in the door as taking their safety and security into their own hands.
Yeah, self-sufficiency definitely is a thing. Yeah. And a lot of people go, well, why would you want somebody like that to have a gun? It doesn't sound like they're in. I'm like, bro, you have to break the ice. You never know. This could be like a Lay's potato chip, and they didn't think they were into guns. But they go to the gun shop, they bought this. Oh, all right, I need what do you call that? To put ammo on the side of the gun, on the buttstock.
Oh yeah, carrier or side saddle.
Yeah, one of those side saddles or sleeves or something like that. Or they see you have no idea what's going to trigger somebody into being not only a gun guy, but who knows, maybe even an activist. You don't know where it would lead. But if you don't attempt it. What was that?
I was just saying having that gun in the closet. That person with the gun in the closet, they're playing cards or having cocktails or playing pool or playing guitar with somebody. They're at church or work or at some civic organization, and somebody says, "Blah blah blah, guns are super dangerous." Like, oh, I got one in the closet. What? Yeah, I got one in the closet. It's no big deal. Oh, okay. Well, I thought guns were a lot worse than that. You know, they might not voice it that way, but how do you measure how often that happens? That's how you normalize guns, though, is by individuals, you know,
Yeah, I
experiencing.
mean, if you're listening to the opening of my podcast, I talk about every aspect of firearms. It's like I'm not just talking about the AR or semi-automatic handguns. I'm talking about shooting clays or hunting or air gun or 22s for accuracy or 22s for clean. There's a whole lot of things you can get into if you can get someone in that door. And I like 22s. I like the shotgun thing because one, usually, especially the older ones like Marlin 60s and stuff that are used that came out of the back of grandpa's closet. Yeah, I'll pick one of those up for 125 or less.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. Before we went live, I was watching a kind of a man on the street. I forget which channel it was, but and they were talking about gun bans or something. I forgot the exact topic, but there was one lady. She's like, "I don't understand why anybody needs a gun," you know. And I'm like, "Well, you don't get out very much if you truly don't understand. You seriously don't get out much because there's a jillion different reasons somebody could want a gun."
Yeah, I actually posted once. I'm like, if your favorite TV show is not NCIS, what's the one? Special Victims Unit, but you still say things like, I don't know why anyone needs a gun. How's this? There would be very few special victims if the victim at the beginning of the show would have had a gun. I'm like, that's why.
Well,
How
any of
can you watch?
those, right?
Yeah,
America's Most Wanted, Unsolved Mysteries. It's whatever it might
it,
be.
it, it's
You
like,
know?
how do you enjoy watching these crime shows, but still don't get that people can protect themselves if
Yeah,
given the opportunity?
I guess maybe because it's a crime show, they think it's theater, like it's not
Yeah.
Well,
real.
it's the extreme, and it is. That's what I was
Yeah.
going to say.
Yeah,
Those
it is.
crime shows aren't the stuff that happens daily. It's the crazy stuff. So they can, I don't know what that's called, but you know, like put it up on a shelf or put it over there because it's like you're saying, almost fantasy.
Yeah, but the two things that get me are the I don't know why anybody needs, and it's just like anything else. It's like all that tells me that person has not thought for a fleeting second about the whole thing at all. And then the next is that I don't know why anybody needs that many, right? And it's like, well, like once you have one or two, well, I don't know if they're building an arsenal, they're wanting to go do something horrible. Well, if I'm building a collection, that's what I'm going to call it, why would I then want to go do something completely evil and stupid to strip me of my rights or potentially even my life to enjoy the collection I've acquired? It makes no sense.
Well, we're going on a tangent, and they're obviously only being able to say that because they're just not aware or experienced with the nuance. So when they hear of people having a massive, they see like a picture of an armory with all, you know, a row of the same gun stacked for some use. So anyway, that's not gun shop stuff. So I've got the website up, gunshopguide.com. And there's a section over on the side there for both etiquette, which is sort of different than what we're talking about today, but like what Tony was talking about earlier. But then some tips are more for, you know, to elaborate on the etiquette or just in the bigger scheme of things. I've got some tips here, so I'm just going to whip through them just so that they get enunciated, I guess. And feel free to, you know, add on to these if you want. I put get your state CCW. Obviously, it's not a requirement, but having your state CCW is going to get you into a class and then, you know, get some experience. But obviously, not a requirement. Ask questions and listen to the answers. A little bit what I was saying about before, but also if you're not sure which gun you want, and you've got a lot of advice online. Ask the question and don't try to educate the store owner or the shop whatever, the person behind the counter, just listen. You know, you're going to go to another shop and you're going to be comparing that answer and how they answered with the answers from the other shops. So you don't have to have anything other than your ears open for that. I put, be honest with your firearms experience. The person behind the counter is not a used car dealership. They don't really, I don't know of any shops that get paid on commission. There's no pressure to sell. The most is you want to keep their attention so that they don't think of you as just like what Tony was mentioning, a waste of their time, right? So be honest so that they know who you are and they know you're not trying to be more or less than you are. I put ask the clerk their experience. I think it's, especially if you're new to gun shops in general, it's okay to say, do you have a lot of experience with guns, or what's your interest in guns? I mean, you don't want to be accusatory, but you know, what kind of guns do you like? And then that gives the clerk, the person behind the counter, the opportunity to have a conversation with you or not, right? They don't have to reply to that, but they can. So kind of an open-ended question there could start a conversation and give you more insight to the store or the person you're working with. Doing some homework ahead of time so that you have specific questions to ask, having an idea of what you're looking for instead of just being completely new to it. And then I guess remembering to budget in for the other things like ammo, magazines, holsters, whatever it is you're getting, bipods, sandbags, you know, other things that are going to be necessary for the overall. And don't max your budget out, and don't tell, you know, you start telling the person behind the counter that my budget's $2,000. Well, don't start looking at $1,800 gun. Maybe start looking at $1,000 gun realistically, right?
Yep.
Choose the right store, you know, go to more than one store. And remember, stores are different when the boss is there. Stores are different when it's inventory time. Stores are different when something stresses them out. Stores are different when ammo's hard to find or ammo's plentiful. Stores are different when employees come and go, right? So give stores benefit of the doubt and check back with them. Give them a chance to win your respect or loyalty again. And then ask about the local ranges and gun clubs. And that's another indicator question. You go in, hey, I'm new to town. I didn't know you were here. I just saw you. It's awesome to see another gun shop. Do you guys work with any of the ranges or any gun clubs? Do you represent or do you support the DC project? That might be a little bit accusatory, but you know, give them that open-ended question. Do you work with any of the ranges or any of those shooting clubs? And then if they do, boom, that gives them a chance to brag about the club that they, you know, spend money and time on. And now you're a different customer. This Clover had to jump out.
Oh, and one more thing I want to throw in before we bounce. A lot of them have, what is it called, cork boards or the bulletin boards. Pay attention to what's on that because it can have a lot of different things.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely. Instructors and gunsmiths and just other people looking to start clubs or shooting events.
Anything. I mean, even a place to get your game processed if you're one of those guys. Also, which also means you can probably buy game there, or they know who you can buy game for if you want to try it out. People looking for jobs, contractors that are actually Pro 2A or firearms owners. I mean, there's businesses that you can do business that has nothing to do with a firearm other than they felt comfortable enough to advertise in a gun shop, their local business. And why not give business to somebody that's Pro 2A?
Right, or at least a business that's supporting that gun shop, right? It's hard enough for a gun shop to exist, but if they're working with somebody on like something like that, you know, thanks for the lead here, I give you your processing for free, you know, that keeps that gun shop in business. Or maybe it's more than that, you never know.
Yeah, and one of the things, and I hate to keep going back to it, but Quarantine Crawl was done by Anthony Calandra at Gun for Hire, and it was all businesses that support, and he supports, and that supports Gun for Hire Range. I'm on his website too, because of diversity shoot, but so's like everything: plumbers, car dealers, car detailers, restaurants. All these people support the gun shop. So if your place doesn't have one like that, or if you live in New Jersey, New York, hey, check out Anthony's thing, because I think it's pretty cool because it has over 300 businesses there of all types that he went to during the beginning of the quarantine. He put out something every day, every other day. I don't know. He went to businesses, mechanic shops, all kinds of things that were open and that were 2A positive. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into a gun shop that if you never really walked into one, or maybe you just never appreciate everything that was there because you didn't see it.
You know,
So
that's
hopefully this helps.
I really appreciate that, because I'm going to put on my list here. Ask the shop if you need like your car repair, house worked on, a lawyer, you know, the different things that you might need that you don't already have a lead on, or a friend that's in the business or something, because that gives that shop an opportunity to get some cred, some business cred with a business lead like that. And that's a great point, because they're going to know the ones that are 2A friendly right off or at least you got a better chance of knowing ones that are 2A friendly that way.
Definitely.
Even like a landscaper or a locksmith, right?
Yep, 100%.
Or
100%.
you're a computer guy.
And I think that's overlooked by us and them. And the only reason I paid attention, I mean, yeah, I've gone to one of the ones near me, and they have the business cards pinned to it. But Anthony really set it up with the quarantine crawl to go, yeah, that is an asset. The gun shop, the gun range, all an asset to find out other Pro 2A friendly businesses.
Right on. I'm going to leave it there so that I can get. Wait a minute. I got it till 2, so we can take some time to chat up. Whatever the next shoots you've got and whatever else is going on. We didn't really hit the questions over here, so we'll hit them next week. They're fairly random. One of them is 380 and 9mm. Where did caliber come from? Actually, maybe we hit some of these and I just forgot to color them in last time. But we can hit those questions on a typical show. So let me see if there's anything out here in the comments. I've asked what they need since I'm an FFO. I'm always looking that I can take back to the shop. Oh, so that's a little bit different if you're a shopper, but as a collector, that's another way to do it. To let them know you're a collector, so that they know that they've got somebody who would grab something. Things are always better in quantity. So if a gun shop knows they can safely buy 6 items instead of just 3, because they know people are going to buy those other 3 items right off the bat, that you're a resource to that shop now, and you'll probably get that thing for whatever they paid for it, because they know they're making their money on those 3 things they really want. And I mean, I can just tell you that's happened so many times where auctions or estates, somebody will come in with an offer to a gun shop, and it's like, well, I know I can sell this item for sure. Thanks for bringing it in. But if you want to insist on selling everything at once, which a lot of people want to do because they don't want to just sell the one thing everybody wants, they want to get rid of everything and make something on the rest, right? Yep. So, there's that situation happens quite a bit. So if you can be that person that helps get rid of some of those 3 or 4 other things that they really don't want, that would normally be a burden at the shop, like I say, you're really a resource for them. And that's unfortunately how you get a collection, because you do that with couple of shops. Be careful, especially like I say, if you're in a shop or if you're in a town where there's any kind of transient, any kind of people that are moving a lot, because that's when people tend to shed their collections and their stuff to pay for moving, and just to not, they've moved on from whatever their past hobbies were.
Yeah, believe me, I'm moving right now, and the 10th trip down the stairs with a firearm, I was like, good, maybe I do have 2 minutes. It's just like, I am tired of walking up and down these stairs with a firearm in each hand and loading them into the vehicle and then getting out of here. So I can't wait to complete my move so I can actually have my gun room set up. I'm doing something like that. And just to have it set up, I can't wait. What was I going to say? Oh, talking about, so I'm watching your 2A Weekly show, and I'm like, hey, does G-Webs not know my show came out this week?
No. Did you do a podcast?
Yeah, I released the 2A4E podcast, I think, on Independence Day, actually.
No. How the heck did that happen? So you know what happens though is YouTube will disconnect us, right? So let me go see, because I
Oh
don't
no,
know.
it's not going to be on YouTube because my Stitcher link. I have to get a new laptop. That's how I
Oh, okay. Well, that's
uploaded to
why I
Stitcher.
missed it.
Yeah,
I
so it's
only
on.
really paid. So, okay, yeah, no, I'll go listen to it. Yeah, I had no idea.
Okay. Yeah, it's on iTunes. iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, all those. But yeah, I usually put it on Stitcher, and then Stitcher puts it on YouTube for me.
Oh, okay. What is? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, that makes sense then. I figured you just set it up that way, but okay, that makes a lot more sense. So it's just like their default. I don't know what to call it, like little wiggly line, little speaker
Hmm.
indicator they film. Okay.
Yeah, I got to figure that out. But right now, I'm operating off my phone. I just got a notepad. I think that's we call them a pad from Samsung. So that might be my thing. But I've only had it a week, so I have to learn how to exploit it for my show. But yeah, finally got it out. The guys are making fun of me that I only put one out every season.
Well, I can't remember the last time there was one.
Yeah, right after SHOT Show. So they were right. They were
Well,
right.
that's
I
good to hear.
really have to work on it. Yeah. And it was a lot of stuff. I mean, look, I'm on some decent shows, and sometimes I think people listen to all of them, which I know they don't. But it's like I don't want to bore people. Like I'll say some of the same things on my podcast that I've said on this one, or on Gun and Gear Review, or on self defense. Self defense gun stories, or guest appearances. And it seems to me I'm saying the same thing, and I don't want to bore somebody with my show. But I'm like, no one listens to all the shows I'm on.
Well, and those of us that may listen to more than one or something, or all of them, even because there's some people that might, right? The FBI agents are.
Oh,
So,
definitely.
but I figure those people understand. But yeah, that's an interesting point that I'm not a guest on as many shows as you, but I do a bunch of stuff, and I'll say the stuff over and over. And I once in a while I'll think about it, and I'll be like, man, this is the fourth time I've said it. But like you said,
Mhm.
realistically, maybe a couple of people heard it more than once, but more than likely, if I said it four times, then a whole bunch of people just heard it once.
True. I just don't want to bore people with my show. And I'm
No, I
like,
agree. When you're doing your show, then it feels like you're doing it for like the who knows number of times. But at the same time, you got to think of your show as an archive. Like your show is setting it down for, if nothing else, for yourself 6 years from now, and you're not going to remember all the guest hosts until that show brings it all back to you. You know what I mean? But you're
true.
almost making like a diary for yourself, or for your whoever the historian is that's going to go back and be like, what was Tony doing here and here and here?
Hey, never thought about it like that. I think that might motivate me. Yeah, so today's my
For doing
last moving day.
podcasts, I think that's the way to do podcasts, is looking like towards somebody who's not even listening, somebody who's listening from the future, like, Star Trek or something. That's how I try to think
Yeah,
of podcasts sometimes. But
nice.
anyway,
That might get me off my butt to get more guests on, because really I am kind of missing that. And now that I mean, I've had friends in the business because I've been here, what, 10 years now?
mhm.
10 years of advocacy. I've made a
All
lot of
right. Well,
friends.
there's Cheryl Todd and Dan, and they're going to do their thing that way. I'm going to call that like a thorough introduction and thank you, because that's basically their like their interview style. And then you've got Charlie doing the riding shotgun thing, where it's typically an introduction, but he lets the person go, so the direction is less uniform. Like the direction goes in whatever the person's mind is going, or whatever they're trying to, whatever's in their head at the moment when he does the interview with them, right?
Yep.
And then I don't know if you've heard, I'm sure you've heard lots of other people's, right? Like let's say KD doing the whole Stogies and
Straps. Yeah.
straps, where he's just kind of laid back and doing the open conversation. So what would be your style going forward if you sat down and went like, I'm going to do an interview every 2 weeks going forward? Would it be for 2A for E, or would it be for diversity shoot or something like that, or would it be for a different project?
No, I really want to do it for 2A, 4E. Because I've asked, and I have a guest list that I've made in my head, and I've actually asked them, and all these people have said yes, they'd be on my show. I think I'd like to keep it conversational because that's better for me, and you can vibe off the person. It's like, look, we're going to introduce what you do, your origin story, and then if you want, we can set in on the whole show and let's just talk. When we go into the training concepts, and we'll be talking about, I don't 9mm versus 40 or something silly, just to get them to talk and expound on their feelings. That's what I try to do because I think it's important. I think it's important for you to get to know a whole person. It's like, great, we do an interview and you did 3 minutes or 15 minutes on your organization. Yeah, but who are you? You know what I mean? Like who
You don't get a
is
chance
this
to
person?
say, why do I care? Or, what have we done? Or this is why, that kind of thing.
Like okay, I'll go ahead and say it. One of my friends, Zeke Stout. I don't know if you know Zeke.
Sure.
Okay, yeah. Duh.
Well, I mean, I used to, back when Artisan Tony would do live chats,
uh-huh.
that guy would hang out in the after chats.
So Zeke is a funny dude. Zeke right now runs a gunsmithing school. He's part of a gunsmithing school. But like we hung out, we talked, and this SHOT Show was the first time him and I just got to hang out for like 2 days in a row. And then he came down to the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg, and we hung out for another 2 days. And I'm like, yo, dude, he does a lot of stuff, you know? So when I've had guests on the show, that's what we do. We get into a conversation and we let them be on the whole show, and they can say as much or as little as they want. But I think that's one of the great things, just to get to know the people you're either giving your money to or behind organizations. Like Beth Alcazar.
Mhm.
Most people do straight up interviews with Beth. Beth is one of the funniest human beings I know. And it's like, I'd like other people to know that. There's a reason her and Johanna are BFFs from Latina Locked and Loaded. So that's the kind of style I'd like to do when I do my interviews. And I think I have enough friends lined up that, yeah, I can do one every 2 weeks or something like that without putting a lot of pressure on myself, but making
Normally,
sure I
I'd
get
say
it.
every 2 weeks, I mean every week. But I know you got a lot going on, so I'll give you till the end of the year before, or at least till you move, until you got to go every 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm staying now in New Brunswick. So
Right on.
that's my move right now for a little while. So I'm back where I started from 25 years ago in Jersey, Rutgers University.
Well, I think with that, that's a good place to end it. So I appreciate you giving me a bunch of new stuff for my list, and hopefully this was a useful, definitely not well structured, but hopefully useful um, uh, focus for a little bit on the gun shops and gun shop tips. But that's the thing: gun shops are literally the infrastructure of our community and our industry. And the whole point of this show is to bring people who've been around guns their whole lives to focus on questions and these topics when we do these focus shows, and then to offer our experience, I guess, and opinions on this stuff. And gun shops are everything, and they give us the opportunity to talk about all these different facets and stuff. Now, we hardly even got into training really, or what gun shops facilitate as far as like supporting 4-H. Clover's big in, or had been big into the 4-H side, and that is a lot of time funded. Other shooting sports are oftentimes funded by the gun shops in the area. There's other things like the NRA and other rights organizations that'll be funded by the gun shops and stuff. And, that's a whole nother way to maybe help rank or determine which shops you're going to spend the most money at. But I think the biggest tip that hopefully we give everybody and everyone takes away from it is to buy something when you go to shops. Local shops are important. There are infrastructure. Buying anything is helpful, but there are certain things you can do to give them the most markup or whatever. And and often you can collect or, just like you said, kind of prepare, have some extras on hand for friends or for hard times. I think, dollar cost averaging or whatever, buying a box of ammo or a magazine. You can never have too many magazines for your firearms. And ammo, again, really can't ever have too much ammo. Okay, so with that, I'll shut up too, so we can actually end it. Thanks, Tony, for showing up. Thanks, Clover, for showing up. And we'll be back next week with a normal show. We'll just go back to answering gun questions. When is the next diversity shoot?
Next diversity shoot is the 13th, coming up this week, actually at the Heritage Guild in Easton, PA. So I can't wait to see you guys. Go to Simon Says Train on Instagram, Simon Says Train on Facebook, or The Second is for Everyone on Facebook. Click on the link, buy the ticket, and I'll see you there.
Right on. And with that, we'll be back to pick you up later. Oh, clicking the wrong button over here. I probably should have queued that up better. Oops. Thank you for supporting our projects. If you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee, check out our Patreon channel.
The guys and gals at gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thank you for watching gunwebsites.com.